ladies and gentlemen, live from the broken down, low rent, sleazy, double greasy pirate radio Nut Hut Studios. It's time for the very first ever Southern.
This is all biting. Standing by, over.
Right now, it's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines,
clock's run out. Time's up.
Wind is blowing cold and dark. On the road and no way out. Broken house, a smoking gun. On the run. On the run.
This is everybody.
My name's Jimmy. It's Aftermath FM. It's late night. It's the after party in the underground. It's the alternative to the alternative. We have Andrew Bartzis, the Galactic historian, here tonight. And into the microphone is on the air. Joni Mitchell, live, 1970.
Well, then can I walk beside you? I have come here to lose the smog, and I feel to be a cog in something turning. Well, and maybe it is the time of year, or maybe it's the time of man. I don't know who I am, but you know life is for learning. We are stardust, we are golden, and we got to get ourselves back to the garden.
Journeyman. Oh, yeah.
I am here.
Excellent.
That song was taking me away, though, man.
I know.
I was imagining being there live, sitting at the campfire, at the
Jeez.
fireplace at her house in Laurel Canyon with Stephen Stills and.
Well, you know what happened? She wrote that song for their first professional appearance at Woodstock, and they were having a problem getting in. Hold on a second, my iPad is going off here. Everybody was having a problem getting in, and she was doing a TV show the next day, and so she couldn't be there. So she told the story, and you could tell she was hurt. Like, she watched it on TV, and she's like, I wrote this song, for them to sing, and, and for me to sing. And so it was nice to hear that. I mean, it was literally, I swear, when I was listening to it before, it literally brought a tear to my eye. I'm not even kidding. My name's Jimmy. I'm crying in the night, Santa Cruz Mountains, listening to Joni Mitchell talking about being stardust and golden and getting back to the garden, and that's exactly what we need to do, who we are, and where we need to go. In my personal opinion, but opinions are, everybody's has them, every journeyman or not. So,
yeah, clear that tear from my eye.
I know, and it's hard, dude. I'll bring your crying towel down to the Joni Mitchell concert if you're going. Anyway, like I was saying, Andrew Bartzis, the Galactic historian, is going to be here. His new book is out, The World According to Andrew Bartzis, and I was doing some research earlier because I wanted to put some information in on over at Aftermath Media, which is right now a year old, and you can join up for $79 for the year. So mosey on over there, and you'll be able to see exactly what I'm actually talking about right now, which is I posted some information there about the show tonight, and I was over there, and I just put Andrew's name in, and this some website. There's a website out there called about controversial religious books, and this website came up, and there it was. Andrew Bartzis is the #1 outlaw of religious books right now. And so we're going to get to talk to him here shortly, in a moment. But hey, let's get into some of this, because the last time Andrew was on, I got some emails and some people talked about the show, and so a lot of people really don't know much about what the concept of the Akashic records are and is. Now, Epic Journeyman, so does this go back from the definition or where it was first brought to the table? Was this not a theosophy, or Blavatsky was the person who was originally responsible, or did it just come out of that group of people that was about at that time?
That came from a group of people, yeah. Rudolf Steiner, and you had Blavatsky and Edgar Casey, and all those people at that time. You remember they're coming out of a big spiritualist movement in the 20s. I mean, it was huge. It was like the biggest thing going on. And all these people kind of came out of that. Now they went on, beyond that, but famously, you had Houdini out there as the debunker of the day, trying to disprove the some of the stuff, right?
Well,
so there was a lot of shysters out there taking advantage of it too. But the Akashic records themselves were the things that were on this mental plane that was accessed by these theosophists. Well, not just theosophists, like I said, the anthroposophy. I think I said that wrong. Anthroposophy, which is Rudolf Steiner's brand, and then Casey just naturally had it. He just naturally went there and could see like things throughout space-time, essentially. He found medicine on the shelf one time, famously, in one of his this girl was sick, and they went and approached him, and she was going to die. And he went to a trance, and he told the people to go look behind some kind of jar on the shelf. And behind that jar on the shelf was the very medicine that she needed, famously. So it's the kind of thing that, if you can access these records in the ether, there it is. It can be very useful. Something we all supposedly have. I mean, it's a matter of how much we develop it.
Well, that's the thing too, and hopefully Andrew will get into a little bit about that, because that's the thing a lot of times with people. People may have certain abilities, but they don't really know that they do. You know, like some people are empathic and they don't know it, and they get really affected by other people's moods and stuff, and they just never heard of it, or they never thought of it before. And some people are psychic, and some people dream, and you know, all these different little things that happen with people, and they just doesn't ever dawn on them that maybe they have some sort of a thing going on. You know, so we'll get into some of that with our guests. My name's Jimmy. It's in the Microcosm. We're here Monday through Friday, 10:30 Pacific, immediately following Clyde Lewis and the Ground Zero crew, Ronnie P. and Wes over there. So then I kicked ass again. Clyde Lewis talking about the fungus among us. And, you know, we did a show a few weeks back about the alien invasion and the disclosure. Only we said the aliens don't look like what everybody thinks they do. They're spores, man. Spores.
Friends to the show that never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside. There behind the glass has a real blade of grass. Be careful as you pass. Move along, move along. Come inside, the show's about to start. Guaranteed to blow your head apart. Rest assured, don't get your money's worth. Radio show, it has my power, and you gotta see the show. It's a rock and roll. You gotta see the show. It's rock and roll. Mystery shows again and again how nature points up the folly of man. Godzilla. History shows again and again how nature points up the folly of man. Godzilla. History shows again and again how nature points up the folly of man.
Andrew Bartzis, the Galactic historian. Are you there?
I am here, Jimmy and Epic Journeyman. How are you guys doing tonight?
We're doing fantastic, man. It's good to have you. Good to see you earlier on video, and welcome into the Microcosm. We're super happy to have you back, man. So,
Well, I'm happy to be surfing the microcosm with you tonight. And
nice.
Getting into some deep subject matters and really going in depth to the nature of reality.
Sweet. Well, listen, I'm definitely planning on opening up the phones early tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want to call in, we're going to get the phones open here in about 10 minutes, and I'll give out the number. So we want you to call in, talk to Andrew yourself. You know, anything's on the table with you, Andrew. You're willing to talk with people just about any subject?
I do a call-in show every other Thursday for going on 9 years now, something 2,800 shows, something like that. So I talk to people all the time. Every subject matters, from traumas to aliens and everything in between. It's helping a person understand where they're at, what this information does for them, and what to do with it.
Nice. Well, would you mind talking a little bit about, you know, how you came into being as far as coming to recognize what was going on with you? Because like I was saying earlier, like a lot of times people are psychic or empathic or whatever. They don't realize it. They get affected. I mean, what happened to you? How did you find out that you were...
So for me, it began when I was 9 years old at a baseball game, a professional baseball game, Cleveland Indians. And at the bottom of the ninth inning, tied score, our team hit a home run, everyone cheered, and I became aware of everyone in the stadium, who they were, what they were, 10,000 years to the past and 10,000 years to the future. Everyone listening on radio, watching on television, including those people watching on tape and archive. They were all in my central awareness, and from that point, I understood a lot more. I was like a 900-year-old, nine-year-old. I had all this unique conceptual information in me, and between 9 and 13 was processing what it all meant and learning how to live in both places at the same time without creating a schism in my own personality. Learning how for the two worlds to not compete into each other, so that I understood the fundamentals of what multidimensional living is. We are multidimensional, multifunctional, photonic beings of light manifested into these two legs, and learning what the nature of that meant while still trying to be a human being, and understanding that my individuated purpose was to help people go through their individual traumas and then make a journey out of that through self-illumination. Now, the 5 major religions, they look for external validation through faith. And there's a whole different indigenous religious experience out there that is called self-illumination. So I'm here to help people become self-illuminated masters in whatever great subject matters that they want to go into. And part of that journey to understanding self-illumination is the fundamentals, the basics, the variety, understanding what true effort is. So many people want to be spiritual, and what I do is I give a little scale out, the effort scale. If you can put aside 15 minutes a day to do any form of spiritual practice, doesn't matter what it is, you begin a daily practice. At 15 minutes a day is C plus effort. That's 5 days a week. 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week is B plus effort. 90 minutes a day, 6 days a week is A plus effort. The effort that you put into any spiritual practice, concept, whatever, even it's pondering, writing, whatever it's going to be, you're taking time out of your unique day to have that part of your ongoing experience. And that daily practice was what creates these foundations to understand and process more in-depth information, be it, cultural, economics, or metaphysical experiences that are going on around you.
And there's a big difference between illumination and enlightenment, isn't there?
Yes, absolutely. And self-illumination is you've got to motivate yourself to be happy about learning in general, and then put yourself into what I call pattern recognition. And that pattern recognition can become mystical. But part of that journey there is commitment, courage, and discipline. None of those are mystical. Those are all self-summoned experiences. And mastering the mind, body, and spirit is knowing how to turn on that unique energy inside you so that the passion turns into a stoked fire instead of a little tiny spark.
Mm-hmm. Well, fire in the minds of men is how things get rolling on the planet too, isn't it? I mean, just
fire in the belly too, or the kick in the ass works just sometimes too.
Mm-hmm. There was a group that's been prevalent throughout history and prevalent now, and in a ruling position, the tribe of Dan, and I'm pretty sure they were called the Sons of Fire. Mm-hmm. The Sons of Fire, the tribe of Dan. This has to do with Egyptian magic and Babylonian black magic, specifically. But we had brought up Edgar Casey prior to you coming on a little bit, because he was somebody. He there's really not much about him and his in reference to, except for he comes up when you say Akashic record in a search, because apparently that was part of what was going on with him as far as him being the psychic that he was. How does that play out? I mean, because like a lot of people don't understand. Because of something like that, like you have a Casey he's called the sleeping psychic, and you see him next to the Akashic records, and so you can conflate the two things. Is being somebody that can tap into the Akashic records similar to being a psychic, or is it the same thing, or what's the difference? If you could clarify for people.
Different journey. First thing first, there are people that can pick up information about others, gut feeling. Then there are intuitive people. The Akashic records is the knowingness. There's a sense of internal achievement of engaging the higher spirit and the physical body, where they're not in competition with each other, and the body's a part of the spiritual experience, which creates the access or portal to the Akashic records. And the rest is fundamental skill sets of how do you process information and data. It's really easy at the very beginning that you open up to these concepts, but you're not getting full fluid flows of words and this and that, like, capable of what I'm doing. I've been doing this for 25 plus years. I've mastered this particular skill of knowingness. Even if I've never heard about a subject matter, it's about, can I translate the right language for it? And the Akashic records is not everything that's going to happen just in the future. It's past, present, and future. The Akashic records is really about understanding the greater choices the soul is making in individual moments. Like there might be choices from 500 years ago that affect this one choice today or tomorrow. But it's not about what 500 years ago did. It's still what you're going to do today. And the Akashic records is also about these spiritual contracts and karmic debts vehicles that we have everywhere in this massive parasitic, global system we have.
So there's something that Peter Diamandis and the X-Prize progenitor here in the Bay Area is talking about, and that's called on-demand learning. So he's saying that here in the not-too-distant future, we'll be able to sit down in the seat of a helicopter and fly it. So what you're saying what I'm hearing you say is this is sort of when you have the ability to tap into this particular flow, whatever this flow is, and you have the ability to do that, that whatever you come in contact with, the knowledge around whatever that is comes to you just because you're able to because like it's not, you know, when you say the Akashic records, in my mind it conjures like books and books and this giant library that you could just go in 1979
at one point it was that simple for me, but I reached a point where I didn't need any mental constructs to function within it. I knew it was just a flow of information and data. And when I found what's called the sacred neutral point of view, where I'm not attached to the data, I can do high-level processing and pattern recognition between multiple timelines. That ultimately is what makes me uniquely different than others, is my ability to see, perceive, and understand the nature and flavors of time. And then the moods that human beings bring to time. Like when I look back in history, 500, 700, 900 years ago, where I'm doing private sessions with people, and I have to tell them it's not about what happens in your past life. Stop the external blaming. And then there are the ones it is about their past life. It is about resolving the stuff they never resolved before, and helping them understand what are you doing in your moment of now. And the power of now is great. Now what? And I say this to my clients, and I say this on my shows all the time. Once you become enlightened, now what? You need a spiritual strategy and plan. And the Akashic record can help you plan spiritual strategies when you learn how to focus it on yourself and not external to others first. That's the most vital thing to understand about the records, is you got to learn to do it for yourself, not because you're cheating and you're getting who's going to race the horses, because that's a negative frequency. You're able to chart your own personal growth, and then how those energies flow with you, how you process and understand, and then what unique synchronicities come to you. Like when I do a radio show, I'm asked a question. That person has a perception of energy and has an answer, and all the collective people that are with them in their spiritual world, including every audience member. So every audience member, past, present, and future, meaning from 5 minutes ago, stop listening and they're going to re-listen, current listeners and future listeners, all of them are a part of this call too, and they create a high potential for answering questions in 26-letter encoded English alphabet that I translate from what I call a 1 million letter celestial alphabet. And the celestial alphabet is the Akashic record, and I've gone through the long-term tutoring process of how to make literal metaphor of what my perception through the records is, so I can translate it here in this unique language we have that is quite limiting.
So one of the best examples to me of the Akashic records that I've seen was with Casey, where almost everything that we think we know, or the legend, or the mythos of Atlantis, comes from him. It doesn't really come from Plato. Plato's the guy that brought it to bear initially, but made it famous. But there's only a couple lines, script. It wasn't very much. Everything else came from Casey and his meditations.
And Aldous Huxley.
Yeah. I'm curious if you've ever gone there on your own, essentially, like if you've seen it, or if you have any kind of independent verification of some of the things that he saw. Like he saw the whole way it worked, like the I forget what they called that star crystal in the center and all those things that they did around it.
Let me give you my perception on Casey. I don't think he was reading the Akashic records. He was doing something different. He had a way to go at a data source when he was a dreaming state. He's why he's called the sleeping prophet. That means his physical mind. I don't know if you know, Casey was a very heavy Christian. He very much believed in God and followed that stuff. And a lot of the material that's recorded in his sleeping state is completely controversial to his normal faith and religion. So when he would go into that sleeping state, he would enter the superconsciousness state. And you were able to access the superconscious, which is doing superluminal thinking. And many of those subject matters that ended up being recorded, that unique frequency that was Casey, and then the collective of beings that he was working for, were creating information in the moment, knowing full well future audiences would be changed by it. So it's not really a Akashic record. It's seeding information in history, because they knew Casey was going to be a tremendously famous person long after his death.
So is there would you describe the current state of humanity as a collective unconscious, and that people have to be sort of awakened to their own abilities and powers from within themselves? In other words, changing the world is a big order, but going along the path of any type of spiritual attainment, you're going to naturally be moving away from anything that's, negative. In a sense, you're moving away from that. So is there any, Yeah. Go ahead.
I instead of a collective, I call us an uncollective right now that's trying to become a collective. But one of the things this UFO consciousness conspiracy world talks about, it's a together event. We're all doing this together. And that's just a self-propagated, a farce. It was always meant to be an individual awakening. And after the individual awakening is when the very fundamentals of collectives come together. Telepathy will be one of the last skills people learn, because they have to learn internal emotional balancing and control. The vast majority of narcissists out there have to go through, narcissist detraining, and the depressies have to learn to be happy. Because if you are in an uncontrolled mental state and telepathically linked with something, you could do heavy damage to lots of people simultaneously. So the journey into the collective nature is the individual journey of letting go of the individual traumas that may drive you into fear, rage, envy, hate, racism, etc. All those things got to go through the healing process, which is what we call the awakening. And then people think, ascension is the very end, when you've mastered how to be you and you've learned all the different facets of know thyself, so that when you get exposed to unique experiences, you don't freak out. How many people have you talked to that have had, a ghost encounter and it's, scared the shit out of them for 50 years?
Well, so you can you help people to find their karmic stumbling block that they're tied to, that keeps them locked in place and not able to? Let's do this. We got 2 minutes here. 626-999-4761. Call in and talk to Andrew right now. 626-999-4761. This is Aftermath FM. It's in the microcosm. We're here with Andrew Bartzis, Epic Journeyman. My name's Jimmy, and 626-999-4761. So you come into someone's they come in contact with you somehow. Either they meet you in person, they see you on video, they hear you on the phone. Somehow you come in contact with this person's energy field, and in that moment you can kind of get a gist of, for example,
I take a snapshot of their energy, and what I'm looking for is how their atlas and atlas bones, C1 and C2, fit in the back of their neck. That tells me everything about emotional physicality and spirituality, how data flows from the brain down the brainstem. From that, I can chart a conversational course that helps them understand their internal limitations, be it them karmic or self-created demons. That would be alcohol, drugs, depression, suicidal thoughts, whatever it is, so that they could bring it to a frontal awareness and begin to heal it or take its power away.
So the self-illumination, then, once you become enlightened by understanding what your burdens you've been carrying, you put down the burdens, you've enlightened yourself. You've enlightened yourself and put your burdens behind you. You've taken care of that karmic debt. You figured it out. You've cleaned it up. And now you are becoming self-illuminated, which will light your path into the future.
Yes, and that's the first step of self-illumination is learning spiritual hygiene. Like when you do a show, sometimes people send psychic vomit at people. I hate this. That's psychic vomit. Or you're in a crappy-ass mall environment and you can feel that negative energy. You're at a job where you've got sexual projections at women all the time. Spiritual hygiene is learning individual spiritual practice from whatever denomination it is that cleans your energy fields, acknowledges that you're a sovereign being on a daily basis, so that you can begin to fortify your reality with your own light, so people can't come in and dump their dirty light on you. And then after a while, you're just like dirty bath water, and you got to be that bright, shining light. And we have many tools, tips, and techniques. Sexuality is built in with us that gives us that inner glow. It can shed off those rust and dust bunnies that from people that we connect to, or the stuff we created in our own self. That's the first part of self-illumination, acknowledging that spiritual hygiene, whatever practices I do, got to be a fundamental part, just as you brush your teeth, change your sheets, and vacuum your carpets. You incorporate that, and then self-illumination becomes very easy because you don't have those internal blocks from your own, negative karmas that are constantly put you in repetition, and you're now charting your course. And the metaphor I say is, on those old maps, they say, "Here be dragons." That's where you want to be in your spiritual journey, right on the edge of your unknowingness, and not afraid, put downing the expectations.
The spiritual hygiene thing is also related to noise, spiritual noise, like clutter, because it happens to a lot of people, rather, where they first start waking up to their psychic abilities, their ability to read other consciousness and their energy with other people, right? And you'll be walking in the mall or something, or in a public square, wherever it might be, and that it'll start infringing on their own, self-awareness. And a lot of people develop what they call agoraphobia, basically based on that. What they're really hearing is the voices and thoughts of other people, not like in a psychotic sense, like like little voices necessarily, but picking up on the actual spiritual energy. Like radio waves. Yeah.
So I don't want to call this cookie cutter, but the majority of people that are having agoraphobia, it's more about the individuals they have a phobia about, not the actual space itself. So what I say is, when people are going through their awakening, out of their own ignorance, because they don't understand what's going on in their body, they turn up the volume of all of their empathic senses, and they're what I call the metaphorical people who can hear the mouse fart next door. And if you can always hear the mouse fart next door, you're going to get paranoid after a while. And if your psychic senses can actually tune in and hear the mouse fart, after a while you'll smell the mouse's fart. And unfortunately, a lot of people turn on the empathy skill. And in my cosmology, empathy is the lowest psychic skills. Intuition is what we want to get into, because empathy takes you out of your body, and you are sampling their energy and experiencing their energy through them, through the filter of yourself. And that's engaging too much in their energy frequency. And oftentimes people who do that are called psychic bracks. They immediately come into your field. They try to finish your sentences, talk about subject matters that have been on your mind, but it has nothing to do with the conversation you're in.
Right. They become disruptive, not necessarily intentionally, but because they're trying to clear, stay ahead of the clutter in their background, in their mind, right? So charting your own path forward, having a direction, is the thing that can get you out of that, right? And so I think that's what happens, is that people get stuck. A lot of people never develop their skills because that first incident they have of being aware of all the the spiritual noise being generated by all the people around them is frightening, right? Yeah. And so they back up. So these become the people who just become the logisticians of the world, right? Never, the debunkers of everything, never pay attention to the spiritual side.
Or they're the white picket fence person with the perfect 4 kids and 2.5 cars. Okay.
626-999-4761. 626-999-4761. Give us a call. Talk to Andrew yourself. Hey, there's something called the Blue Brain Project. I don't want to get too deep into it, but I do want to bring it up. So in 2017, the Blue Brain Project discovered that neural clicks connected to one another in up to 11 dimensions in the brain. The project's director suggested that the difficulty understanding the brain is partly because the mathematics usually applied for study in networks cannot detect that many dimensions. The Blue Brain Project was able to model these networks using algebraic topology. So basically what the Blue Brain Project is, and there's a lot to it, but basically what they're saying is the human brain is processing information on up to 11 dimensions, and that's really all that they can even get to or detect.
Yeah.
Right. So is there something you can expound on that? Because I know it's multi-dimensional what you're talking about. It's not just here.
So what that project is they're trying to map consciousness and find consciousness markers. What's a sneeze versus what's a laughter? And as they're beginning to build what 11 dimensions actually looks like, it's only the algebraic topography, that particular mathematical system, that allows you to understand the hills, the rises, and the valleys in something that's more than 3 dimensions. You know, if you can you think of fourth dimensional art, an art that adds a fourth dimension to it? Yes, plenty of times you see art that has that makes you it strikes an emotion in you. Okay, it's the emotional dimension, and then there are many other dimensions that, you know, observational art can interact with, and then there's just angular dimensions that have no volume, but they're a line of observation, which is a whole different dimension of perception. So data flows in those dimensions and perceptions differently, and allows the brain or the spirit or the consciousness to make master pattern recognition, as well as create brand new neural pathways every time you're in a new subject matter. Like when we go right to the edge of the unknowingness, you're creating brand new neural pathways, and there are people that are afraid of that state. The people, you know, haven't read a book in 25 years and don't want to go do new things. And, you know, after a while, you know, the brain doesn't necessarily shut down, but it forgets how to put real effort into making these new neural pathways.
Well, we were doing something last night, and the concept was brought to mind that just like when a person is hallucinating on, say, LSD, they hallucinate, and what they see is real. So if they see this in front of their face, and what this scientist was putting forward is that the technology now exists to cause that hallucination to happen. So you can see a screen in front of your face, and you can look at it and decide what you want to do on it, and then it will click it for you, this type of thing, to create the hallucination that you see, this type of thing. Have you had any
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So some of that technology is actually tapping into the projection and reception power of the third eye. And it's using the rods and cones in the main eyes to make a triangular perception system. So there's new forms and flows of data that can be interacted with, because the eye darting and moving is a program that they're charting that gives you a better understanding of how the rods and cones are interacting with the third eye in the background, so that the third eye can project to where the rods and cones are going to go, which makes something appear on the screen. And after a while, that will be vision on screen, live internal vision. If I see an apple in my brain, it shows up on the screen. I'm driving a Bugatti on a freeway, I'm driving a Bugatti on the freeway. It's a matter, does the computer have the processing power to keep up, and can it render that stuff? Quantum computers can. We've always heard the saying, the military is always 50 plus years ahead of time. They've got quantum computers. We all know it. And if every one of us had a quantum computer, data management, time management would be far simpler. Okay?
Epic Journeyman, are you there?
I am
Get
here.
in here,
Yeah,
because,
I was going
all
over the place thinking about some things.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking about how we mentioned before, like what might end humanity is the very thing. I mean, the collective will, certainly, if we all join the collective and become part of,
There's no collective.
I mean, like the artificial collective. No, the artificial collective. Like we go in to the matrix, so to speak. We all join in and have artificial telepathy and artificial spirituality. That will kill us, right? I mean, because it'll destroy our spiritual side, right? That's death to the soul, essentially. But if you go, the other thing that might destroy us quite feasibly is intention magnifiers that manifest our reality. So very much like the script of, or the storyline of Forbidden Planet. I mean, that very thing where everything you wish and desire, you want to manifest in your conscious and subconscious mind becomes real.
And here's a classic example. Nibiru Planet X suddenly was there and gone, there and gone, there and gone, because of the will to believe it in there and disbelieve it at the same time. Okay? Right now, we know that the cabal globalists, that they're trying to enact destruction by flowing information about self-destruction, apocalypses, this and that. And if enough people focus on it, it can happen. But at the same time, it isn't happening. Okay? Because there's enough people to disbelieve in it at the same time. There's a world of believers and disbelievers, and there's a fundamental set of very fine shared reality rules that allows the one disbeliever to be super powerful over a handful of believers, because that one disbeliever can tap onto the entire collective of disbelievers at any moment.
That term, you're dragging me down, man.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. that which you look at looks back at you. And if you're looking at the darkness all the time, the darkness is going to look back at you. And if it's all about baby raping lizard wizards, and, save the children, and unfortunately those subject matters beat down people's personalities, and then, they take on the negative energies and find themselves in emotionally challenged spaces.
Yeah,
they burn out.
A lot of people become what they despise too. I mean, if you see
exactly,
when you see a lot of times, whenever you see somebody railing politically against something, you can almost be sure that they're into whatever it is they're trying to be against. That most of the time it's we're living in a world where it's people are wearing costumes and unconscious creators of the reality. In other words, they don't realize that each individual person that bows down to the altar of negativity every day is each individually creating a vibe that's also resonating and going across the planet like a wave. It's just as easy as it could be the other way around, except for there seems to be this conflict addiction, this constant seeking of the juice that comes from seeing the horrible shit that's about to happen to everybody. And
and a lot of times in my private sessions and on public calls or the conferences that I put up, I tell people, you got to put the darkness down. And unfortunately, this community we live in likes to tell those darky stories all too often, and baby raping lizard wizards become real for people. And when you stop looking at it and you start giving yourself something else, you get a whole different, refreshing, energetic vibe in you that could help you, leapfrog your individual journey into just understanding better, or just having a better life in general.
626-999-4761. Give us a call. Don't be scared. Come on, give us a call. Andrew, you're not going to bite anybody, are you?
Not at first.
I see 626-999-4761. 626-999-4761. So, is there something that you'd like to get into, or is there something that you're feeling that you need to, talk about right now? I mean,
yes.
That'd be great.
Yes.
Because
So, one of the things that I like to do is a forecast, like a weather forecast, potential futures. And one that's been coming up a lot in the last, let's say, 7 weeks is major cartel activity going on as the different states open up, because many of the local drug corners got shut down during COVID. So there's a massive reorganization, and we saw a whole bunch of nightclub shootings in Miami and Texas, and that's all turf war. It's all cartel turf war. But we just had the assassination of the president of Haiti, which is all about drug running routes. Okay. So Cuba's having major issues, and the drug running routes are in question there because they're negotiating higher prices whenever there's a revolution. So we're going to see an uptick of cartel, and if they end up declaring the cartels terrorists, that will be the new war that replaces getting out of Iraq and Afghanistan.
What about Taiwan? Because it's, I've been talking about it for about since Biden got in there. That I had a.
Have you heard about the floods in China?
Yes.
Do you realize how truly bad it is?
Not necessarily. I saw the first two dams.
Think of Katrina, except not one city, but hitting 12 cities. Okay. There'll be chest thumping, but there will be no invasion of Taiwan. There'll just be chest thumping. They're dealing with probably $900 billion in damage, minimum.
Well, yeah, okay. I saw the two dams collapsed, and I saw a lot of what happened there.
Three dams collapsed.
Yeah, I saw.
The thing is, their entire dam system is at risk of breaking now.
Mm-hmm.
Which is their power as well is threatened from that hydroelectric power. And the thing is, it's hitting Europe too. They had these floods in Germany and Lithuania and Luxembourg and all the surrounding territories. And the thing is, that's not going away. We're just early summer still, basically midsummer. We haven't gotten to the hurricane season, storm season, fall.
Yeah. Ironically, that area that got hit in northern China, they have monsoons there, but they're calling that a once in 5,000 year storm. They got 28 inches of rain in 24 hours. And then 5 days after that, another hurricane, or what they call typhoons, hit and dropped another like 30 inches of rain or 20 inches of rain over 5 days on the entire South. And all those rivers that are upstream, all that flood water is going to go downstream with the new rains on top of it. So there's an ever-evolving disaster there that's going to have to be majorly covered up. So no war. It's on hold.
626-999-4761. 626-999-4761. My name is Jimmy. It's in the microcosm. Here with Andrew Bartzis, the Galactic historian. You can find his book over on Amazon. The World According to Andrew Bartzis. Oh, you dirty dog. It's Aftermath Theft. (626-999-4761). Give us a call. Six 999-4761. Andrew Bartzis is here. Epic Journeyman's here. It's all about confidence, man. Give us a call. 626-999-4761. Aftermath FM.
It's all about confidence, baby. She was a confident lady. And I know she's driving me crazy. And after all this, I know she probably hate me. When I should have said this and I should have said that. All that I know now, it's all about confidence, baby. She was a confident.
Did you come back, Epic Journeyman? Did you go check the perimeter? You see a man about a centipede? That's what you were talking about last night, right? Centipedes?
Dude, centipedes, yeah. It's like centipede season over here apparently right now.
Hey.
Most centipedes I've ever seen.
Hey, Andrew, we were talking about last night, some friends of my family had to go over to Hawaii for a wedding. Spur of the moment. They got over there, tried to charge them $400 for Uber. $600 a day for a rental
Because
car.
there's not enough rental cars, and a lot of the fleets sold off their rental cars, so
Yeah.
they have nothing. Yes,
That's
that's actually happening around the United States. You were talking about centipedes. I lived in the island of Barbados for 2 years. Let me tell you, you can see centipedes there that are like 18 inches long, 16 inches long on a regular basis, and they'll literally eat anything.
Yeah, they're nasty, man. I mean,
Yeah.
they're fast too. Those legs carry them pretty quick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you get a centipede in the house, a big centipede like that, you're not going to sleep that night, man.
No.
You're
Those are
tearing
some
everything apart looking for that thing.
Exactly. Those are some scary ass things. Exactly.
Yeah, we don't have snakes here, but we don't need snakes.
There's no snakes on Hawaii in Maui or any of the islands. There's no snakes.
Nope.
So you're telling me nobody ever bought a snake and let it out and got out? I mean, because that happened down in Florida. There's a whole bunch of snakes down there that didn't originate.
Pythons, yeah.
I mean, you're telling me there's no snakes?
No indigenous. There's no indigenous snakes there now.
That is
There was one in the zoo for a while.
Well, see,
I don't even know if that's still there.
you learn something every night on Into the Microcosm, because I did not know there were no snakes. Although I had never seen a snake there, but I wasn't really looking for any either at the same time, because I was always there with a significant other, and wasn't looking for snakes. I was, having a good time. But rental
You were
cars,
managing your trouser snake.
exactly. And let me just say, rental cars weren't $600. I got a Jeep, with the top down, and I had myself a good time. But it sounds like a good time is going to cost you a lot of money in the future, because I don't think things are going to change. And I see, a lot of these planes getting parked over this last year out in the desert. And I mean, if you don't maintain a plane for 30 days, I mean, that thing, you might as well forget it, man. The rats and the mice have already ate through, the wiring out there or whatever. Those planes are never coming back.
No, when they seal those planes up, they're become rat and mouse proofs. Not to mention they carpet bomb poison everywhere.
Those planes ain't ever coming back.
No. They're designed. Those fields are designed specifically so you can get a plane back to service in like 6 hours.
I'm telling you, I don't think they're coming back. But then you are the Galactic historian. But for me,
I've been out to those airport graveyards and stuff like that, and had tours and stuff with the different ones.
I think the parking of the airplanes, the no chips for the new cars, all of this stuff is because there's less airplanes, because there's going to be less flying, because there's going to be less people affording to be able to fly, because jet fuel is going to cost X amount of dollars more than it costs now. And I think that what they're going to do is part of the new Great Reset will be that the old kind of planes that we used to have, the ones that are parked out in the desert right now, those things ain't going to be in the air. It's going to be planes made with Bucky paper that don't use too much fuel, that are completely green in every way, and this and that. And I think that'll create a bunch of new robotic jobs for all the new robots to do. But still, I think we'll be sitting around wondering what we're going to do, and maybe I mean, so right now there's a lot of non-essential people that didn't have jobs during this last thing, and they're not coming back. So those cubicle farm people, all those people that had jobs, what are they going to do? Is there something coming in the future that you can kind of vibe out, or what do you think? Just your own opinion.
So I first thing first, I don't buy into the Great Reset in any way, shape, or form, simply because the Great Reset doesn't deal with global corruption, federal corruption, state corruption, and local corruption, which is so pervasive now. It's devalidated all our laws, rules, policies, everything. The courts are so corrupt, it's ridiculous. The courts are selling stock, selling stock on the stock. Every court case is on the stock market. Private prisons, all that stuff has to be dealt with before any great reset can be talked about, because you're just resetting with the same corruption. Okay? And if we were to lower global corruption by 10%, we'd have a very positive, happy world. But the greedy capitalists and the globalists that have the money are driving a social media, a social engineering system. Okay, that's the mind control system, and it's not about active energy systems beaming into people's brains. It's just how they can passively program you through the news and propaganda and nationalism and patriotism on all those other isms that get people to react in adrenal gland instead of out of their heart.
So are you familiar with the Venus Project? Is a thing that was started by, I can't remember the guy's name. Maybe you can, Epic. And this is a way of creating a society that's not profit based, but it's resource based and localized.
There's plenty of people have come up with that concept. But
this dude's pretty world famous for his particular idea about it. I just can't think of his name right now, but
the guy that did Zeitgeist, right?
Yeah, the Zeitgeist guy. But the thing is I'm just only reason I'm bringing it up is because you brought up the corruption, and you're 100% right. But the corruption isn't just at the top. The corruption starts all the way down at the bottom in the way that we have to corrupt ourselves in order to participate in society. For example, I don't believe in having to piss in a cup for a job. And I think it's against my rights, but I corrupt my principles so I can go get a job. So I'm corrupting myself like a toothpick. I'm a toothpick in my corruption, but then it keeps continuing on because I'll continue to go up the line with that same kind of an idea. And when I see guys being up there voted to be voted on, what I'll do is I'll ignore part of what one guy does because he partly agrees with what I think over here, but I'm going to ignore what he does over there. It's against what I think. And I'm gonna corrupt myself because it's not the lesser of two evils if both people are evil. You're just still agreeing to the evil. You're just looking for the whatever part of it that you can, shine that piece of shit up and make it look like
Right. Right. And then they get you through tacit consent. Okay. And the next thing to understand is, that corruption factor, your individual corruption, that's what the social engineering system is, breaking you down so you only choose the choices that they give you. And that's a self-corrupting process. And when you want to rebel against the system, it's not about rebelling against the whole system. It's where you use your superconscious and say, I'm gonna strategize my way and innovate my way through this. No matter what the obstacles are there, I can get through this with not just the positive mental attitude, but the understanding that what you're creating is to get you separate of this corruptive system and into your own self-charge.
Well, I mean, I want to bring this up too, just real quick, and then we can bone off this subject here and go into something else. But like when you see these reality game shows, like for example, it's called Survivor, and it's a bunch of these people. They throw them on an island together, and they all got to. The object is to win the $1 million. And so consistently, however many years that show's been on, I think it's still on. It's been on for like 20 years. Consistently, the people who lie, steal, cheat, eat people's food in the middle of the night, they're so selfish they go over and eat the rice. They make all this fakeness and they do everything they can. And they're the heroes and they win the $1 million. And in America, being a millionaire, isn't that the everybody wants to be a millionaire? So I mean,
yeah, but that million they win is only 643,000, something like that, because the rest is taken away tax and capital gains.
Right.
But none of that show is real. Every character is scripted and practiced. There's no actual live independent footage on any of those shows.
But what I'm saying is that the hero is the guy that lies, cheats, steals, and eats your fucking rice.
Exactly.
And he's the hero across America.
These crappy people winning that stuff, which is a way to social engineering people into being crappy people.
That's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is that is the blatant example of exactly how the corruption is paraded in front of everybody, so that now mom's got black, she's wearing a black leather jacket, she's got a black minivan, her kids are wearing black leather, everybody's an outlaw with tattoos. Everything seems to be topsy-turvy, upside down, the opposite of what it used to be. Nobody knows what to do, and the whole basis of reality has been disturbed. And now we're at a situation where we're standing on the precipice of the future, and nobody knows what to do. Lots of people are frozen like a deer in the headlights because they don't know what to do. So do you have any? That's
that now what energy, and you just got to take a step forward off the precipice and onto the path. And then, you've got a 1,000-step journey. You're going to take many breaks in that 1,000-step journey, and you may take a few steps backward, but it's not tightrope walking. You have lateral, vertical, horizontal, and lateral movement available to you.
It's like never looking up, right? Nobody ever looks up.
Yeah, nobody ever looks up. Exactly. And then, something else when it's you're talking about the Great Reset, our entire economic system is a complete and total sham and farce. None of it's real. None of it whatsoever is real. And people will have to have a greater understanding of the nature of the fake economy and how it's propped up by, mystical magic, literally. Magic is what's running the fiat system, our belief energy, our intentional energy that says a dollar is worth this. And then they say inflation, dollar isn't a dollar anymore, which means they have control over every valuation of what our consciousness can create. And therefore, our consciousness, when you want to go into that do-it-yourself energy, you can find the cheap way to do it, but you're still programmed by your choices that the system is telling you.
Yeah, it's amazing how much power people have given to them because of their wealth that is so totally undeserved. I mean, not deserved in the slightest. And how the poorest among us are often the richest in their talent, you know? And so it occurs to me, like, you look at somebody who, like, compared to Bill Gates, super wealthy, that makes, you know, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars a day, basically, right? I mean, he could spend $100 million a day and never go broke. That guy or somebody with that kind of wealth could go to any woman on the planet who will never sell out for anything, say, hey, I'll give you $100 million for sex. How many women of the 3.5 billion on the planet would turn them down? I mean, no matter how good their morals were, right?
33% would turn them down. That's my guess.
You think so? Yeah. I wonder, you know, I mean, principles are in short supply these days.
Well, that's because the majority of the people don't live in the first world. The majority of the population live in the second and third world countries. Therefore, they're going to take the money.
Yeah, they did the Robert Redford movie kind of based on that. It was $1 million of Demi Moore, right? And Ashton Kutcher, I forget who was in it with her, but Indecent Proposal, right? Yeah. But it doesn't. Most people don't even need that much money. I mean, you walk down and you know.
You go to the slum streets of India. You might be able to do it for like $6.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah,
$6 over there is a lot of money.
I mean, just go to Pittsburgh or something. Your typical girl coming home from work, you know, and out for $40,000. I mean, how many? That's not that much money, right? Really, especially to somebody like that who makes that in a minute, literally a minute. Yeah. So we have to get rid of that system. That is an unfair system.
My buddy. Let's talk about this at 1 second. My buddy was in a looping session. My buddy was in River Runs Through It. And he was in a looping session, and I was with him at the looping session. Robert Redford was there. They were mixing the looping session, and they were about to make that movie that you're talking about right there. And they wanted Julia Roberts for that role. And I was literally sitting there when, what the hell was her name? Can't remember her name. She ended up being president of Paramount, but it was her and the director of that movie, and they're like, no, you know, she's too emotional. You know, I think we ought to go with Demi, and that's when they went with Demi Moore, man.
Much better choice.
Yeah. So you were about to say, you're about to get into something, and I am going to go check the perimeter myself. I'll be right back, but you were about to get into something, and nobody call in until I come back, because these guys can't answer the phone. But go ahead. I'm sorry about that, Aaron.
Okay. So I wanted to touch again on global corruption, federal corruption, national corruption. If we were to reduce corruption in this world by 10%, like as I said before, we'd have a radically different perception and point of view of what's actually potential and possible. Our existing governments pass laws that actually disable our capacities to learn, grow, think. They have so much control. Now, there's been this counterculture to get away from government control. Unfortunately, so many Karens and Kens have taken over those different cultural movements, whether it's the sovereign citizen movement or whatever it is. The Karens and the Kens have taken that over. And until we get the Karens and Kens out of those different learning systems, we're going to be having a tough time of promoting healthy politics at a local and all the way up to a national level. You know, I've been talking about, you know, reducing corruption and having one president who solely runs on anti-corruption. Okay? You know, there was a study that was done. There was a CBS News, 60 Minutes news special that came out at about, I don't know, maybe 2010, 2011, right around there. And it was talking about how the Medicare system is the level of corruption that's in there, and that there's not one single FBI agent assigned directly to Medicaid to do white-collar fraud. And in fact, go to all 50 states, there is no single attorney general or Department of Justice that does white-collar crimes. They've all been defunded by the mid-'90s. So nobody investigates white-collar crimes. Maybe some local sheriffs do it here and there, but the vast majority of white-collar crimes that go unnoticed are what allows this superiorly screwed up, corrupt system to continue and go and go and go. because no one gets punished. No one goes to jail after the 2008 scandal, whereas after the savings and loan scandals in the 80s, they put like 2,800 bankers in jail, serious jail terms. Okay.
Right. And Neil Bush, right, in the it was Colorado. It wasn't called Silver something savings and loan, but millions there. It led to the Enron scandal. Ripping off all the people in California from the people in Texas. Nobody went to jail, right? And then it led to the 2008 collapse, which should have collapsed everything. Honestly, it was right there.
And it didn't. Okay. And what did they do? Now they have a fiscal and monetary process where there is zero oversight on what they're doing and zero capacity for the executive branch to actually control anyone in the Fed or anyone in the cabinet.
Yeah, I mean, white-collar crime is actually probably more harmful than, well, it is more harmful to more people because it has a mass effect. So you look at something that people are so concerned about, like, say, human trafficking. Human trafficking is one of the biggest white-collar crimes there is. All those princes and royals in the Saudi states and Dubai and the Emirates and stuff like that, they're taking people from all over the world and shipping them off, through there. And it actually, those ships, the manifests on those ships that leave Dubai do not have a manifest. That's right. So all the opium that comes from Afghanistan goes through, all the human trafficking stuff goes through there. It's a huge scandal that nobody seems to pay attention to because it's profitable.
Well, everybody's got their hands out and being paid off, and white-collar crimes includes bribery, graft, and bribery. Okay, there's supposed to be a division that will go after judges that are getting paid off or cops that are getting paid off, but they put everything to the independent investigation units, but gave them no funding to actually have prosecutors.
And the people who are there are paid off.
Right.
Yeah.
If you don't fund the prosecutors, no one's going to go to jail. Okay.
Well, and the few that weren't, they were actually doing anti-corruption work, like the two. Was it last year or the year before? The one was in Miami, and the other one was, I think it was in New York. The attorney generals were the prosecutors for the case were both killed, right? So
any of the corruption cases that make global news or mainstream news, those are all hit jobs being done on people. Like Ohio just had a senator, go down for corruption because he was working with First Energy and trying to sell a company to First Energy and write a law that it would make it cheaper for him to buy, as he was buying and selling stocks on all this, information. But they took him out. That was a political hit job. So any corruption cases you hear right now are political hit jobs. That's all they are.
Yeah. Well, it used to be that there was something of, what was the movie, The Star Chamber, right? Remember that movie? There was something really like that. Like in the 60s and 70s, if guys got too powerful, even like the movie Remo Williams, the Executioner series of books, dime store novels, that was a real thing. I mean, people got to a certain point of power where they were outside the law and they were just taken out quietly, hit with the heart attack gun or, just taken out and, going over that cliff by accident, or maybe a straight up shot in the head, but they were taken out.
Or they get Epsteined,
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, and what do you think is going to happen with Ghislaine? I know she's getting off, man, and there's just no way.
A prostitute getting off. Good one, right? I will say this about Ghislaine. Whatever deal she has brokered, it is with all of the alphabet agencies. Okay? Will she get out? I think in 2022 you'll see a bail hearing for her. And it's a matter, will it be reported as a bail hearing, and then what's the bail going to be? Do I think she'll run if she has bail? No. But that will determine, is she in witness protection or is she, back out in the street? Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, Mossad killed her dad, but then she worked for Mossad. So there you go, right? So Mossad and Epstein and her and our intelligence agencies and MI5 are all in this whole thing together. So there's too much at stake, We're not going to let her get out and testify. And
it's not about she's too smart to testify.
They're saying my phone line's busy.
Yes. So everybody's saying about 3 people try.
I'm not sure why that would be. Let me go see what's going on with that. Hey, stand by.
It's Galactic historian's got all that energy going through, jamming the lines.
Yeah.
You have meddled with a primal forces of nature, Mr. Beale, and I won't have it. Is that clear? You think you merely stopped a business deal? That is not the case. The Arabs have taken billions of dollars out of this country, and now they must put it back. It is ebb and flow, tidal gravity. It is ecological balance. You are an old man who thinks in terms of nations and peoples. There are no nations. There are no peoples. There are no Russians. There are no Arabs. There are no third worlds. There is no West. There is only one holistic system of systems. One vast and immane, interwoven, interacting, multivariate, multinational dominion of dollars. Petrodollars, electrodollars, multi-dollars, Reichmarks, rims, rubles, pounds, and shekels. It is the international system of currency which determines the totality of life on this planet. That is the natural order of things today. That is the atomic and subatomic and galactic structure of things today. And you have meddled with the primal forces of nature. And you will atone. Am I getting through to you, Mr. Beale? Get up on your little 21-inch screen.
So I'm not really sure what's going on with those phones. I don't see anything wrong on this end. So I'm not real sure. Sorry about that. I don't know how to help change that. But anything wrong with it on my end. So I was having some problems with somebody calling late at night a while back, like last week, and a couple weeks ago. And I made some adjustments to the ringer, but I see when calls come in, I see them come across the screen, even though I don't hear them. So I'm not real sure, and that's too bad because I really want to take some calls. I don't know. Do you have a number you want to use to have people call in, Andrew?
No, I don't have a number that I can use now.
Okay. What about you, Epic Journeyman? You got a number? No? All right. Well, listen, I guess for now, for whatever reason, you know what I'll do is I'll go on my cell phone and I'll try to call it myself and see what happens.
Okay.
All right. So I'll just see when you guys jump in here and let me go get my cell phone and try to call in.
There were some weird issues today on my phone. I mean, just in general. So it might be something going on with some internet outages. Since this routes to the internet, it might be something like that.
We are in Internet World War 27 right now.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
The level of cyber attacks that are going on now compared to 3 years ago is like a 20-fold increase in attacks. 20-fold increase.
We're not talking about them now either. Like you have to look. No. Like there's been one almost every day, right?
Well, not just that. I have friends that are in in the information technology communities that run major server farms, and I regularly have long-term conversations about what's really going on back there. And you have actual cyber warfare divisions in China, United States, Germany, and they're like a bunch of like just street gang warfare on the internet. And everyone's trying to take over a different corner. And what's a corner? Just an internet hub where there's a server farm. And everyone's trying to, we recently had this massive denial of service, which is just a brute force attack. And when somebody uses brute force attacks, they're making a statement. Okay? They're making statements. And right now we see brute force attack after brute force attack. And it's only a matter of time before something like, Verizon Atlanta goes down. You can imagine the hit to the stock of Verizon if they can shut down the entire Verizon Atlanta network. Back Christmas Day, we had an RV explode over the AT&T network, right where the internet hub met for the wireless system, and it took.
I
it
had
down
all
Christmas
kinds of
Day.
theories about that.
Yeah.
I was hoping it would prove true. I really thought that at the time, so much was lining up for this to be right that those guys from Blackwater that did all the mischief and got prosecuted for killing those people in Iraq got pardoned, and they're from Tennessee and Kentucky. They're actually from there, and that they had returned home right when this happened. And I really thought, it's like, you know what? That's those guys, man. That is exactly the setup. But they apparently got this recording of the guy, and he really did plan this for months supposedly. But I don't know. There's a lot of fishy things about it. Why that?
Well,
why
we
that
can
particular hub?
let the fish be the fish, whatever it is that took the hub out.
Yeah.
And right now, when I talk to my friends that are in the community, their bigger fear is to see the actual cyber warfare attacks hit with actual social engineering systems on the actual people, like people walking into offices and pretending to be somebody else, so that they can assist at the brute force attack and invade companies and corporations.
Yeah, I mean, actually compromising the security of the storefront place, so to speak. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Office, storefront. There are many law offices right now that are very behind on internet security. Everyone's got a computer that's networked together, and the only thing protecting it is Microsoft Home or Microsoft, Home Network. Okay? I mean, it's so easy for somebody to come in and get all of your private files, and guess what? Put them all up on the internet, or they're going to delete them all and start charging, these hack for profits. Okay? And was a law firm ever going to admit it got hacked, it had its data stolen? No. But I know of at least 15 that have been done in the last 10 days.
So they're talking about giving Cuba internet to make a democracy movement there because the government shut down the internet, right? And the people were demonstrating, and that was their way of dealing with it, kind of like Egypt tried to do with the Arab Spring. And what they're talking doing is send these balloons up, even though we actually have Starlink up there right now. We could deliver it to them right now that way if we wanted to. But they wanted to make a repeater with this balloon, which is what Google had started years ago, and do it that way. And so you see this ability to do that and give internet to the entire country, basically. It's pretty, Cuba's not small. It's a pretty good-sized island, and millions of people. That means they have it the whole time. So there's no reason for it.
To get that to be done.
Yeah, so it's one of these things. I do think that's going to play out. Somebody went quiet in the news, like all these things do that don't work as fast as they want them to, and they moved on to the next thing. But it's still out there, just like these cyber attacks are. And it's interesting that the cyber attacks happen to coincide with the exercise that they're running right now, right?
That always happens.
Yeah.
When did the exercise go on? What was it? June 20th or something like that?
It started then, and then there's exercise. I think it was. I have to look it up now. It's July 13th, I think. But yeah, it's through July. So yeah, they're here. They're here. So I wouldn't be surprised we're going to get a lot more back. Like a lot of those things that happened during what was the name of the ongoing thing they did, Jade Helm, right? It started having all these weird things happen with the stuff getting hijacked and data getting scraped and stuff. You know, it was all part of the exercise, but that exercise never really stopped, right? So they garnered what they needed.
A lot of these big exercises are honeypots. Meaning they're trying to attract people to track them into their other systems. Everything's about attracting observation. That's the way cyber warfare works. If you got somebody looking, you can feed them information, and then you can track that fed information back to its source. Okay? So cyber operations have a whole different psychological cyber warfare process behind them too.
Yeah, they all want to talk to you, man, but I can't fix whatever's wrong. I went there, I called, it's busy. You know what you can do though? You can ask questions in the chat, and I can relay them over to Andrew. If you guys want to do that in the chat room.
Is that your Skype number?
Yeah, my Skype number. So yeah.
So it in your little Skype window box. Hold on a second.
My phone
under your top your top of it where it's your name. Does it say engage next to it or
no?
No.
Does
it show your number?
It's not it's not off the hook. I checked all that. I went to the
No. Skype is having an issue, so the Skype call-in number is not working.
Right.
That's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons I stopped using Skype in my private sessions and went to Zoom.
Yeah.
That would happen too often. Yeah. So the Skype number system is actually down.
Yeah, that's never happened before ever.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe I left it off the hook somewhere. I went back and checked all the calls. I did everything.
Skype's probably just getting hit by denial service attacks right now, or it's just Skype, Microsoft being Microsoft.
Nobody wants them calling in and talking to you. That's what it is, man. It's the NSA, man.
Yeah.
So so there we go. So if you guys want to relay a question over there, in a minute here, let me go back out there, and I got to plug my cell phone back in. Let me you guys jump in here, and then when I come back, I'll take questions from the chat at Into the Microcosm of Jimmy G and Strike Zone. If you want to take questions, and I'm not in, I can't get in Discord on this machine. So the only way I can see you guys is if you're on YouTube. In the microcosm, yeah, go ahead. So go ahead and jump in here, guys. I'll be right back in 2 minutes.
Yeah, so SF Thomas in the chat was talking about check the phone box. Maybe it's a conductive centipede. That's a joke, but that actually happens over here in Maui and in the Big Island. We've had a couple of pieces of equipment, expensive pieces of equipment get destroyed by a centipede. They are conductive, actually, and unlike ants and stuff generally aren't unless they're carrying eggs, something that's humid, moist, or whatever. But centipedes, because they're so long, they go across buses, and they fire equipment all the time. Geckos too, man. Geckos
you had one powerful weasel take down CERN.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, leave it to a weasel to take down the most evil project in history.
The weasel, buddy.
So, I do think that there's a lot more to the Large Hadron Collider because of its location, specifically being a spiritual focus point. And I wonder, I really do, if that is being used as a focus intention amplifier, right?
Absolutely,
that's what it actually is.
I think that there's over, we'll just say around 600 deep, dark, black projects, unfunded projects, that all use consciousness, interaction, and intentional energies, and harvest the fear, and take the existing loosh market and can channel loosh back through the portals, so people past, present, and future can be reharvested of energy. I think it's a really powerful harvesting tool too, of consciousness tool.
It's definitely not there just to find new particles. I mean, there's more to it than that.
Hey, Epic, why don't you just you can see the chat. Why don't you grab those? So the first one, let me give you the first one, Andrew, and then Epic, you pick them up from there, and I'll be right back. I'm going to check the perimeter also.
Yeah, John Nelson asks.
Hold on.
Speaking of CERN,
Robin. Oh, he's got a CERN question. Robin's got another one too. So scroll back and get Robin's question about the job. So I'm gonna go hit the perimeter. I'll be right back. So there you go, Epic. You got it, man.
Okay, so we're still on CERN. So Andrew wants to know what you think it is, what it's for, and I'll scroll back for Robin.
All right. So what do I think CERN is? First of all, it's many layers to it. It's a psychological operation. It's a scientific operation. It's a metascience operation, and it's a multidimensional time travel shield that can be put around this world, and light altering shield can be put around this world, so they can interrupt the galactic light that charges and recharges the infinite systems of connectivity and interconnectivity. So it's also a way to make this world invisible or cloaked compared to other, or phase it in and out of reality. Now, CERN, there's not one CERN on this planet. I will say there's roughly 25 in the network. And any given time when the CERN in Austria goes on, it's not going on by itself. There's several others that are going on with it. That's generating a wave in a particle form that becomes part of the implicate and explicate reality, which allows them to use high-frequency artificial intelligences to create sub-timelines of consciousnesses within people's brains, brainwave systems. And it's the brainwave systems that can literally generate multiple forked timelines in which they can use higher technological assets to send multiple consciousnesses onto multiple timelines to do various things that can alter potential futures. That's the main purpose of CERN. And there are many sub-purposes, but it's really about understanding the flow and interrupting the flow of time, as well as the scientific research on the interconnectivity that light creates throughout solar systems and galaxies.
Yeah, when they first had the Trinity experiment, and they Oppenheimer made the comment he famously did, where he made the quote from the Bhagavad Gita. He was talking about seeing the form of all things at once that was revealed that Krishna revealed, right, in that verse. And so, because the guy was just with him in a chariot the whole time, right, as the story goes, and then reveals who he is. And when he does, he gives this, sees, appears some image of, his total power, right, but it's everything at once. And so I think that there's some of those people, when they branched off into quantum physics, they had started quantum physics, which led to the bomb in the first place in atomic energy, but they realized, they realized that you can manifest reality with consciousness, and it probably is the basis of our reality. And it's the endless battle, right, between the scientific materialists and the more spiritual-minded people.
Yeah. And people that are stuck in subject-object reality.
Yeah, and I thought to myself when I was seeing how much these particle colliders are trying to manipulate things at the finest scale, that what they're really doing, I mean, all those particles are entangled with other things in the universe, right? And there's superposition at play. And when you destroy one, when you break it down, what happens to its entangled partner? What happens to it, right? So,
what if it just becomes an unentangled observer?
Right, or if it creates, you're talking about cloaking the planet, or in a sense, what if it enables like a little bubble to be created? Like you still need matter to create a bubble to exist even in a parallel dimension or multidimensional universe. But if you create it in such a way that you have this little pocket, so if you imagine a big balloon that expands and contracts, and that's the universe, but you make this little pocket off this end of it that our world or our reality can exist in, independent of it. That's like the escape mechanism. You know what I mean?
It's more
it's
more
kind
like
of convoluted, but yeah.
CERN's more like the prison wallet.
maybe, yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're definitely up to something more than just. All the people that got involved in it. There's real scientists. Don't get me wrong; they're all real scientists, but there's more to it. There's more involved.
There's a lot of alphabet agencies that are involved in that.
Yeah, and if you can use it to magnify, not just intention, but your, to manifest your consciousness. Imagine it like as a prayer amplifier, even, kind of that kind of ability to bring things into reality that it's a shortcut, you know. Basically, they call it a force magnifier in military circles, right? Where, you know, machine gun on a battlefield back in the, you know, British invasion of the 1776, you know, Revolutionary War would have took out the entire brigade, right?
Right.
But so this is kind of the same thing. I mean, all of us, you know, thinking the same thing at once, to say thousands and hundreds of thousands, even if people are no match for a couple people and have it amplified that way, right? Mm-hmm. That intention magnifier. So it becomes a cosmic battle in a sense, right, of wills.
Yes, because the scientific subject-object community reality function has a disbelieving and has a belief factor to anything that doesn't agree to it. Okay, and technically everybody's right, even if they're wrong. If you believe your truth, it's your truth. That's the subject-object definition reality that the science and the global narrative people want you to agree to. And when you stop agreeing through tacit consent and actual consent to saying that your reality is the only way, no, I'm going to choose to see my reality and validate my own truths, my own self-illumination, you break down the guru path, and you don't need the external gurus to find yourself in observation of multidimensional vision and sight. I used the term before, unentangled observer. It's a term I coined about time travel itself. It's how to enter a state where you're no longer influencing the subjects, the objects, the atoms, the electrons, anything. You are truly an unentangled observer. And if you apply that to quantum mechanics, which doesn't use that terminology because it doesn't believe there can be an unentangled observer, absolutely consciousness can achieve an unentangled observer state. We no longer have attachments to the outcomes of the information, and you aren't limited to linear time.
Bliss.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. Yep. I mean, you achieve a state of bliss. That's you know, knowledge without all of the being caught in mm-hmm. you know, forced to be in someone else's or something else's will, you know. Yep. So yeah, I think it's a fascinating concept. And Robin had asked a while back that her question was, we use the term Michelle Pfeiffer for the V word. We're on YouTube here, you know, that thing that comes in a syringe. So she wants to know if it has an effect on consciousness. Let me see her exact question. It was, hold on, I gotta scroll back a little more. Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
So, what do you think about the effects on consciousness? Yeah, that's it. So,
So, I'm going to be a conspiracy Debbie Downer here, because I think the fear of the vaccination is its greatest tool and weapon that they're doing right now. It's a divide and conquer tool. It's $400, you know, per movie, per Mekhi Phifer movie you see, and it's a massive money thing. But if they wanted to change your DNA, they'd put it in your water. There's so many other ways that they could do things to you. It's about control. And the social engineering systems getting true hardback data, how much control do I have? So I don't think the vaccinations are any more terrible than the other vaccinations, but this one's looking at instead of a 1.2% failure rate. Most of the other vaccinations, no matter what, 1.2% of the people are going to have an anaphylactic response to it or some negative response to it. This one's at about a 3.2%, but you're mass handling it out. So yeah, there's going to be people that are negatively affected by it because it's the nature of what vaccines are doing in the first place. As for the DNA manipulation, more because it's an experimental drug and all the drug companies are completely indemnified, what this actually allows is genetic programming engineering to be moved forward 100 years in law. This is really a grab at genetic manipulations because it's now been put in place in mass quantities in people, and they're using the chemical of the vaccination to test the response, how a small form of the part of your genetics is being changed, which is supposed to be beneficial to this sickness that's spread all around the world. Whether you believe it or not doesn't matter. It's in the global narrative, and there will always be disbelievers and believers constantly in a tug of war of each other. So The vaccination, yes, it has its own particular issues, but it's the fear that it causes the biggest damage that it does.
Well, I think you're right about it being the 21st century equivalent of the 1995 O.J. Simpson trial, where that introduced DNA to the world, and basically in the common lexicon for humanity. And it was around, certainly way before then, but people started to know what it meant and what DNA markers were. And now this is moving it ahead in such a way that all the things that they planned for all these years to use it as a way to actually manipulate life forms. I mean, Monsanto's been doing it for a long time, but it will become commonplace. Now we're actually having the guys come out and discuss on these news programs, making designer babies, things that were taboo to talk about even a few years ago.
Eugenics is the issue here. And ultimately, the drug companies and genetic drug companies are using this particular scare platform that they've got going because it gives them all the test data so that they can start building genetic manipulation products to sell you as consumers.
You can buy that CRISPR-9 kit. Was it $900?
Yeah,
I think there's a really good documentary. And I'm sure you guys have seen it. It's on Netflix about these. I want to call them hicks because they kind of are. They're living in trailers and stuff, right? And they were selling genetically modified like puppies and stuff like that, and making all these things. They started this business to say they could cure cancer with it. And this one guy was injecting himself. He eventually died, right? But yeah.
Aftermath FM is under the microcosm.
I know the pieces fit, 'cause I watched them tumble down. No fault, none to blame. It doesn't mean I don't desire to point the finger, blame the other. Watch the temple topple over to bring the pieces back together. Rediscover communication.
has suffered massive and irreparable damage.
You never know what has happened to him.
Had I not been sure of this, I would not have permitted him to live.
Where?
Father? I need help.
against killing each other, are we?
When it comes my turn, will you want me to go?
For democracy, any man would give his only begotten son.
Monday through Friday right here at 10:30 Pacific. Immediately following Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero. Optimouth FM. My name's Jimmy. It's into the microcosm. Sitting here with Andrew Bartzis. We can't take your calls, but we can take your questions in the chat.
It is impossible for a decerebrated individual to experience pain, pleasure, memory, dreams, or thought of any kind. This young man will be as unfeeling, as unthinking as the dead until the day he joins me.
I don't know whether I'm alive or not.
They destroyed the world. They destroyed the world. They destroyed the world. The entire Los Angeles area. Already hospital facilities have begun to crack under the strain, and civil defense authorities state that the situation is much the same across the entire country. Martial law is now nationwide. Major cities in all parts of the country, New York, Los Angeles, report plague victims falling dead in the streets, in their homes, at their work. The first symptom appears to be severe choking, followed by immediate unconsciousness. Death occurs within minutes. Whether a state of war between China and Russia still exists is not important any longer. Our fellow countrymen are dying. The very foundations of civilization are beginning to crumble under the dread assault of that horror long feared, germ warfare.
Colorado Channel. This is a Class 1 emergency. All civilian traffic is barred from streets and highways. Stay in your homes. Stay in your homes. Those found without specific military orders are subject to summary execution. Stay in your homes. Repeat, Colorado Channel. This is a Class 1 emergency. All civilian traffic is barred from streets and highways.
The Venus Project is a veritable blueprint for the genesis of a new world civilization based on human concern and environmental reclamation. It proposes a holistic social design in which automation and technology would be intelligently integrated to maximize the quality of life rather than simply profits.
Undesirable behaviors are products of long exposure to detrimental environments. If we wish to surpass the limitations of our present-day society, such as war, hunger, poverty, and bigotry, we need to make changes and arrange society very differently. Most of our problems today are technical, but we still look for solutions through political means in a monetary system.
We have the resources. Money is an interference because it limits our ability and it limits our dreams.
Modern society has access to highly advanced technologies and can make available food, clothing, housing, medical care, a relevant educational system, and at the same time develop a limitless supply of renewable, clean energy such as geothermal, tidal, solar, wind, and more.
the solutions lie in the intelligent and humane application of science and technology, and more appropriate resource management in order to supply goods and services to everyone equitably, enabling the entire global population a very high standard of living.
We don't have enough money to accomplish this, but we do have enough resources. If we initiate what Jacques Fresco calls a resource-based economy, this is where all goods and services are available to everyone without money, credit, barter, or servitude of any kind. For this to be attained, all resources must be declared as the common heritage of all the Earth's people.
So I'll stop it there for the purpose of discussion. What do you think about that? How's that sound? I mean, it sounds, on the face of it, it sounds good. And you know what happened with this guy? You know what happened with him?
No.
Alex Jones was upset because of Zeitgeist getting so much attention that he called this guy a Luciferian, and a Satanist. And they lost a lot of the promotional value that they had coming out of that Zeitgeist success. But overall, I'm just saying, what do you think so far in this explanation of exactly what it is that they're thinking about a resource-based world that we're living in, instead of one, you know, that the resources belong to everybody, that type of thing? Go ahead. What do you think?
So first thing first, so to be on a resource-based economy, you would have many things that have to be dealt with. Example, there's a drug problem in Mexico because 70% of the United States uses cocaine. Okay? And for a resource economy, everything has to be related into its resource. And the fundamentals of the way we govern, executive branch, legislative branch, court cases, everything would have to fundamentally change with it also.
Oh, yeah, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about completely and utterly, fundamentally changing the world with this.
That ain't going to happen with the existing corruption we have right now.
Well, okay.
That's why they want to sell you.
So what should I do? Should I just go jump off the Should I just go jump off the Golden Gate Bridge then? Because nothing can change. You keep saying nothing can change because of the corruption. So what's the point then?
It's for you to innovate and outthink it. The corruption is always repeating itself. The whole point of the journey of awakening is to outthink it, physically, mentally, spiritually, and understanding the multidimensional nature that's there.
I'm outthinking it right now by
grow through.
I'm outthinking it right now by presenting the Venus Project, and you're telling me it can never happen because the world's too corrupt.
No. I say it's not going to happen in the existing form that we have right now until corruption and all of the facets of corruption are dealt with at 1% and begin to people acknowledge it's what corruption that prevents any form of natural change.
Okay, what's the solution then to eliminate the corruption? How do we start? What's the first step?
Political movements. Somebody running on a complete corruption campaign, demanding that they fund white-collar crime divisions, demanding that they show results.
Well, you said all the courts are corrupt, so how are we going to get anything done?
How do you pay a car ticket? You just do. Right. For there to be revolutionary concepts, there has to be revolutionary people that are willing to go against the grain.
Well, I'm saying, tell me how to go against. Tell us how to go against the grain.
Communities get taken over by the Karens and the Kens, and they don't end up naturally, organically evolving, or they get hijacked. Now, consciousness is a different movement that doesn't have to deal with the existing systems. It creates its own brand new systems. And part of the resource-based system is understanding the transition from one system to another. Over one day, you just can't transit systems. People won't understand it. You'd have to educate them in that system for years before they'd even begin to go into it. So humanity has to be willing to educate itself to the next level so that they can demand actual changes out of the existing system that's here.
Well, I mean, from a perspective of trying to look at the whole thing, it looks like the only way out of the current situation is to have this whole thing just wiped completely the fuck away. because there's no way to root out the corruption that you're talking about without complete and total utter destruction. Because this stuff is so far in the... I mean, it's like cockroaches, man. You know, I can kill all the cockroaches in my apartment. I kill all the cockroaches in my apartment, but they go over to your apartment or they go over to Epic's apartment. How do we eliminate the corruption in the world without being conscious, without meditating? How are we going to literally go through this world and eliminate this kind of corruption without a total wiping clean of everything? Because I
use this as an example. Mexico is a narco state. The entire government is completely supplanted by the narcos that are there, the different drug cartels that are there. Their cartels are absolutely everywhere. There's a drug cartel, there's a drug company cartel, there's a banking cartel. They're all got these different cartels. Those have to be exposed for what those are. Okay? And then people have to get to a fundamental truth. It is those cartels that, whatever forms that they are, those have to have fundamental expressions. There needs to be movies about them. There needs to be books about them. So that creates a national and a global movement that says this is the focus of what we want. This is how the change that we want. You can't just take down one cartel member because another one will take their place or two more will take their place like the head of a snake. So the movement is an ongoing, sustained pressure on the system to clean itself up. And then when there's a certain level of cleanup, you're going to have a higher form of representation. Right now we have 535 congressmen and senators put together, and we have 380 million people. That's 0.00001% representation. Imagine if we had 10% reputation, 3.8 million congressmen and senators. Okay, how different would our reality be?
Well, I find the I find the anarchical method the best. No masters, no slaves. We used to have to send these fools up there on their little horses to represent our communities, to go up there and say what we wanted them to say. We're living in 2021. We don't need representatives anymore. We can represent ourselves electronically. So, I mean, the point about this whole thing is that there has to be some sort of a future. And unless we're in control of our own future, there is no future except the one that's planned for us. And the one that's planned for us is being run by all those corrupt people that we can't get out of the way. So it kind of puts us in a weird situation.
So one of those topical things that could help people really start moving is demanding an Internet Bill of Rights. Okay? And you actually have laws that send people to jail when you break that Internet Bill of Rights. Complete and total regulation of the internet service providing system, where it's not owned by the government, but there's something to guarantee a single rate price instead of the rip-off rates that they've got going on now.
Hey, there's a bunch of people that really want to get a hold of you, and they can't because they can't call in. So let's tell them how they can get a hold of you, because a couple of people want to get a hold of you for, I think, maybe a session or two or something.
So you could go to my website, andrewbartzis.com. The last name's Bartzis, or just type in Andrew Bartzis, Galactic Historian, and then you'll see my webpage. It'll pop up right away. And then there's contact information if they want to have a private session. Not this coming Thursday, but next Thursday, I will have a live call-in show. This Friday, I have another going over the book show where I'm just reviewing different people who have read the book and want to have comments on it. So I believe if you check my Facebook page, Galactic Historian, you'll get all the data on it. I believe it is 4 p.m. or 6 p.m. Eastern Time this coming Friday. I have another show, and I open up to callers all the time.
So there you go, Chad. Chad Myers over in the chat was asking how to get a hold of you and get some private time with you. So looks like Chad probably getting a hold of you. My name's Jimmy Sin, the Microcosm. We're here every Monday through Friday, 10:30 Pacific, immediately following Claude Lewis and Ground Zero. And we were talking a little bit about the Venus Project because we're trying to find some ways to move into the future with some ideas that, might be able to benefit us. But, I mean, the thing is, it all starts with ourselves, basically, and that's where we're coming from at the beginning of the show, which is saying that, lots of people want to change the world, and I was trying to get at the point that as we move to a more spiritual based ideology for ourselves, we move to a place where we're thinking better things about the world, and because of that we're changing ourselves, and that's really the only way to change the world, is to change yourself, because the world is coming from within. So however you feel inside is the world you're living in. So, if you're living in a good world and you're happy, I mean, hey, man, people that got money, people that got shit going on for themselves, man, they're not digging on the internet for some shit to make them feel bad about how the world's going to end. Man, when the world ends, those people that everybody's so pissed at for having all that money and whatever, when the world ends, they're going to be drinking champagne somewhere. It's going to happen to them in a second because they weren't thinking about it until the moment it happened. Go ahead.
You can't take the money with you, but you could leave it in a trust for the artificial intelligences that are going to represent you. And that's what a lot of the big oligarchs are doing, is putting themselves into consciousness into computers, and then they want to be able to get citizenship. And you're asking before about change. Sooner or later, one of the big mega corporations is going to release a piece of technology that's going to have enough bribe behind it that they're going to open up technology. This year, I don't know. I don't think there's enough political clout and blackmail money to get a unique product on the market, a new product on the market, which includes Tesla's unique solar panels, because what's being produced now is nowhere near the power ratio of what it's supposed to be, and they have the technology to install it in every house in the entire world. Okay, but they're not going to let mass production of that happen. Okay, like many other technologies. Right now, they want status quo as long as they get and kick the can down the road so they can harvest as much intentional energy off of us before they have to make a change.
So you got a question in the chat.
What's great about the solar panels, too, is that there's, I forget how many times, it's like 50 times more effective in space. Don't quote me on that, but it's a lot, right?
So,
and what they talk about doing is having solar farms in space and using a microwave, it's like a laser, a maser, to transmit it back down to Earth and then heat your generator, water, or whatever down here. I mean, there's a little narrow beam, right, that provides all the energy that's gathered by that solar collection farm.
They're already doing that.
And so then you wouldn't have the eyesore of these big panel farms and taking up all the space to grow crops on and stuff, and it's putting the Space Force to good use, right? And
PG&E is already doing that.
Common energy sources that have been known about for a very long time that have never been into mass production projects, like geothermal hasn't been tapped. There's enough geothermal outside of the proper Yellowstone proper to give energy to like 10 states, but there's no geothermal farms throughout the whole world.
Iceland does. Iceland, but they generate hydrogen with it, right?
They generate hydrogen with it, right?
Which is what we could do. I mean, absolutely. There's no reason we can't have it here in Hawaii. They actually did have one they were experimenting with on the Big Island. When they had the eruption, they blamed it on that, which it wasn't, obviously. I mean, it was right on top of a big magma chamber.
Are you familiar with how a Stirling engine works?
Yes, it's heat in the air. Yep.
Heat exchange. Well, you can make a Stirling engine on a massive scale where you have an above desert hot and a below desert cold with the tunnel boring systems, where you could make an engine that could be 7 kilometers long, but it now has enough pressure to power systems, because that's always been the upscale problem of the Stirling engine, and none of that has been put into large scale projects. And if civil engineers actually did the math, they'd realize, oh wait, I have hot air above ground, cold air below ground. What happens?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's no reason it couldn't work. And I thought it was really clever what some of the guys did at Florida couple. Made a bunch of YouTube videos back a couple years back, where they did that with a lighthouse Fresnel lens. They just focused it on its Stirling engine, right, and they were able to power like a belt sander and all this stuff. Yeah.
I saw that too. Yeah. Well, the same thing can be made where you could have a glass dome above that's collecting hot energy and hot air, and then the natural suction process brings hot air into cold air in a long tube, and it's just a matter of creating a cylinder, and you have a Stirling engine on a big scale, something that could be like a half kilometer long. Yeah,
or the really unexplored technology is what do they call it? It's not it's based on sonoluminescence, but it's sonoelectric. I forget what they call it, but basically it's when something like snapping shrimp, they make this mantis shrimp, same kind of thing. They make this hydrogen bubble, and it ignites from the speed of the concussive in the water, right? And there's been guys who have done these agitation systems in water, making these chambers that use that effect. And in fact, what's the guy's name? Lester something that had the something else, had the water car, right? That died mysteriously after showing it off. They think that might have been what he was working on. I mean, they work on the HO gas thing, but I don't think that's what he was doing. I think it was more working on this.
There's 1,000 ways to make the internal combustion engine better. Just those patents are owned, and new systems aren't going to come out because those patents are owned and new science isn't being put into them. What is, I believe, is the internal combustion engine with the 4 wheels at torque is only, 27% efficient? Yeah, it's 27% efficiency.
I was going to look it up. Yeah, Stanley Meyer was the guy I was thinking of, right? That had the water car. Well, there you go. There's so many things like that were, kept under wraps during the oil industry's run on the economy for the last 100 years. I mean, going back to original hydrogen fuel cells that were, people forget the original cars we had were steam and hydroelectric. I mean, not hydroelectric, but fuel cells. Yeah. And that got squashed. And then the electric car they made, the EV1, got literally buried out in the desert, right? Next to all those ET video games, basically. They got rid of, Atari got rid of, right? Make it as a joke, but it's true. They buried those in the desert. So, yeah, perfectly fine cars, right? Nothing wrong. Just to take off.
So they had electric cars in the late
Did you know you can make
more effective than the electric cars today?
They were pretty good. They were.
Walmart
because the engines were very small and very easy to function with, and you were able to have an abundance of electricity produced from the alternator. So it was a very small engine that was constantly charging the batteries, trickle charging your batteries.
Yeah, I mean, I saw this.
It's all doable. Like, so this Venus project was talking about renewable energy. Technocracy is based on resource-based economy, but I think somewhere in between you got something like Ubuntu, right? That Michael Telliger is trying to make go there in Africa. That's the kind of thing we need to work on, as a political solution that is also a technological solution, because you need them both to work together.
You do.
Right?
I saw a thing earlier today, and I've been saying it for the last 20 years. Why don't they put high-power alternators on every wheel that spins to charge batteries while you're rolling? Because they say, well, you can't get free energy. Well, I'm not looking for free energy, but I'm looking for generating energy when I got a wheel spinning. Why am I not generating electricity to charge my batteries? Why do I got
the engine torque ratios? That's why.
Yeah, well, I saw a picture on Facebook today of some dude who made one, and he actually put a pulley on the outside of his wheel and made a bracket to hold it in the back, and he drives around charging his batteries. Here's somebody that I listen to. I don't really listen to a lot of radio shows or conspiracy genre type shows. But when I'm going to listen to something, I listen to I'm a futurist. I like to look into the future. I'm excited about a lot of the technology. Simply, I live in the Silicon Valley. I spent most of my life here working around it. And, so I appreciate it. Now, this is somebody that I appreciate what he has to say. I'm going to run a little bit of this and see what you guys think of this guy. And this is the transformation of humanity by...
friends, my investors, my community in Silicon Valley goes something like this. People have no idea how fast the world is changing. And I want to give you a sense of that, because it fills me with awe and with extraordinary sense of responsibility for how we guide it, what we do with it. This is the computational power of our planet. And over the last 40 plus years, from the 1980s to 2000, we were in a period of what I call deceptive growth, where the growth was slow. It was beginning to change us, but we didn't feel it yet. And then we enter a period of disruptive growth, where it's exploding onto the world, and you saw part of the implications from what Jeff Dean was saying. And the implications of that explosive disruptive growth is that we're plummeting the cost of bandwidth, millions of times cheaper. Computational costs are dropping through the floor. The cost of memory is dropping through the floor, and global connectivity is exploding on this planet. Now, there are two implications I want to talk about during my presentation that are critically important. The first is that of abundance. And I had a chance to write a book called Abundance, The Future is Better Than You Think. And here are the facts. The per capita income for every nation on this planet has increased 300%. Our lifespan over the last 100 years has increased 2.5 times. The cost of food has dropped 13-fold. Energy's dropped 30-fold. And then on top of that, what we're seeing is the following. Literacy on this planet over the last 100 years going 12% to 88% across the globe. The cost of transportation going 100 times cheaper. The cost of communications going 1,000 times cheaper. And the cost of knowledge and information, giving Google, billions of times cheaper for every single person. For a child in Mumbai, having access to knowledge and information as good as the President of the United States had 20 or 30 years ago. A child, the poorest child in Mumbai, in a smartphone, having access to the same knowledge and information that Larry Page has on Google. So, besides creating this abundance and demonetizing the cost of living, what we're also seeing is we're about to see the transformation of the human race. And when I say that, we're going to change over the next few decades how we raise our children, how we govern ourselves, how we communicate person to person, how we employ ourselves, commerce, entertainment, and we're about to become a multi-planetary species.
Peter Diamandis. So he's the guy, the creator of the X Prize. He's got this little university thing going on down here over on the Google property, the old Moffett Field. He's got a little university, and they bring, thinkers and just anybody who's got a really great idea can show up there, and it's, it's an open environment. And, he has a different idea about the future, and he's looking at it in a different way. And part of what he's talking about and what he does talk about is the fact that, yeah, everybody can have that smartphone in their hand, which makes all these new brains who are out there that are outside of the system that don't follow the normal ways of discovery, that are actually making giant, big discoveries, and how the human race, as a result of all these brains all of a sudden coming online, is going to make giant advancements forward. Because people, for example, a little girl in India made a discovery of a planetoid that she made a discovery with a telescope. And she did it because she didn't follow any of the rules that the normal guys who have a telescope follow, because they were taught. She wasn't taught, and she was able to maybe even tap into the Akashic records when she saw what she saw. Who knows? What do you think about what we're talking about here?
Well, the guy was spot on from the 80s to the 90s, and then an explosion of the technology, and we're still adapting to just what the internet can do, not just cell phones and internet connectivity, and how it's completely changed everyone's living habit. And I know people that look at a rotary phone and can't even figure out how to use it, some millennials, okay? And, call waiting, it's just that,
Yeah.
Voicemail, there's still people that are, and then email is cliche now. Everything is done in, business formats. Everything's changing. What will be the next explosion? Well, obviously it's consumer data, and then what are people doing with the consumed data that they're doing? What are they innovating with it? What's the motivation? What's the galactic, the global motivation that people are following? And then when more and more and more brains look at one subject, innovations and problem solving we just got to get the corporations out of our way saying, no, you can't do that because I put a patent 30 years ago and I've never researched it, and I still own the patent.
Do you think people would seek higher education if there wasn't money involved at the end of it? I mean, what would be the purpose of somebody in Mumbai needing the information available to the President of the United States 30 years ago? So what I'm saying is
there isn't a need, and that's the unfortunate part about information. The kid from Mumbai, he's going to be looking at what a kid from Mumbai is looking for, not what a president from 20 years ago is looking for.
Exactly. And I mean, some of the happiest people you're going to see are one of the people that are not connected to the internet. They may have a limited way of supporting themselves, but They wash their clothes. They keep their clothes clean. There's smiles on the faces around the tables when dinner's served every night, because people are happy without having to see what it is they don't have. Like here in America, where if you're a person in an inner city underclass situation, regardless of what color you are, everybody's got a TV in their house, and everybody sees all the stuff that they don't have, that they need to have, and the only way to have it is to get money.
Right. Which then keeps the vicious cycle of material consumer societies. Okay? And when we're stuck in the materialistic consumeristic society, we don't take time for the greater growth of the human being, because the growth of the human being can't be evaluated. It's just an experience.
Epic journeyman, all you that.
Well, let me finish real quick. So the other thing the guy brought up, which is very, very important, is the explosion in consciousness that's going to come. And that's how the uncollective comes together. I've said this for years and years away. We are one funny cat video away from everyone simultaneously laughing and having a unique mystical global experience that has a cat missing a jump video or a K-pop video that gets, 30 billion hits in a handful of days. That can happen. We are one crazy moment where everyone can have a collective moment of, hey, this is a unique experience. We're all add something from it. And then the world changes. After that video that says you can get 30 billion in a day, and the system wasn't able to stop it, it's Oklahoma territory at that time, and it's the starter bell. We're just waiting to have that moment where something breaks through the reality, and there's that moment, everyone, innovation time, go.
Yeah, something of almost a cosmic event would be required to, also. I mean, it's in the old days, that's what definitely had to be done, right? Is you'd have to see something in the sky, like back in was it the 700s, and then again in the 1500s, they had that supernova that people saw in broad daylight, for months at a time. Something like that, and it's funny though that it didn't obviously influence the entire world the way we thought, because we don't hear about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where the funny cat video, maybe instantaneously we would all see it at the same time and be able to react to. Other people think it's something like the rapture, right? That kind of thing that gets everybody's attention. But one of the questions in the chat from Rowdy was, what do you think the pyramids are for? That's a big one.
Amplifying consciousness. Raise consciousness faster. Consciousness can learn about itself faster. It's also a power generation system. It's connected into a grid of other pyramids around the world that alter the global harmonics of the planet. The pyramid can tap into the fundamental vibration on the crustal plates and harvest energy from that vibration.
Well, quite possible, I mean, there's so many things they could be. I mean, that's one of the things that they definitely set up on ley lines. They're definitely set up on sources of power, underground aquifers and things like that, moving water. It have components in them like mica and things that hold electric charge, in the granite, the kind of granite they used. But also, I mean, what about the idea that I've often wondered if you agree with this, potentially the portal thing you brought up, the idea that they're actually the original teleportation device, right? You have all these pyramids all over the world in a sense, but why these cultures show up all over the world?
So
because travel is easy.
The pyramid doesn't have one purpose; it has hundreds of purposes. It's the galactic multi-tool. It can harvest energy. It can open portals. It's a galactic multi-tool. That's what it is.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I mean, it's important. It was important enough to make them. Is my thing. It wasn't just some guy. Hey, I'm gonna die in 30 years.
Right. It's not a tomb.
No.
Instead of it's not a tumor, it's not a tomb.
Yeah, it's not a tomb.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, I think that I think we know. I mean, I think that there's a lot of people who know exactly what they were used for. And I think a good portion of the knowledge that was there is stashed away in private libraries and Vatican Library and places like that, saving it for a rainy day maybe, because they don't know how to. There's something that they still don't know, or we'd already done it. You know what I mean? Like there's some missing ingredient that keeps us from making them today. Maybe
us. That's what keeps us in it from making them.
Because I was in Las Vegas when they built the Luxor Hotel, And they used lasers and everything. When they got it all to the top, were starting to build it up, they realized they were going to be off, I believe it was about 12 feet off center, because they didn't factor in the refraction of the the bending of the light from the laser because of the heat, the thermal stuff there. So that's moving it.
Union labor too.
Right. So they had to quickly try to adjust and make it work. But I mean, if something was made in, I guess it was in it was finished in 92, I want to say. So not that long ago, and they couldn't make it as precise as they did, potentially 6,000 years ago, then or even longer, if you want to think they got made during the time of the Sphinx, which is at least maybe 20,000 years because of the weathering, right? At least 10. So
I put the pyramids at about 450,000 years.
You think?
Yep. The initial stuff that was there.
Mm-hmm. So do you think we've had different? We'd have to, right? Civilizations that have come and gone, and they were basically inherited, or?
This is what I say in our hollow Earth, and hollow Earth is literally hollow spaces and caverns, and then there are species that have learned how to live in between the space of atoms. So they're energy beings. So the hollow Earth itself has 10,000 plus species that live there. The astral world also has energetic beings that live there, and then it has its astral society. And then there's the surface world, which is the farm, the genetic farm that they sell the genes to other races and species. Because humans are a very common species spread throughout the galaxy, and humans have this capacity to create a psychic energy that can run very unique machines. So humans are a commodity throughout the galaxy. That's why there's also a human slave trafficking process, in the negatives.
So we're the xenomorphs for everybody else, right? That adapt to any environment, right? Like say that we could be sent anywhere, like in the concept of the movie Alien, right? In the trilogy, and the original trilogy, they took the form of whatever they were brought into the environment and adapted to it. So for us, you're saying our DNA enables us to be so adaptive. That's what they always say about humans, right? Is it's our ability to adapt that makes us so successful.
And it's the it's the harvested intentional energy that keeps them in a controlled environment through the false god worship system that keeps them locked into a repetitive process. So
we're talking like the Morlocks, right? From the Time Machine, and we're the Eloi up on top, being harvested. So for the original, the question was asked in the chat about so not only what they were for, but who made them and where'd they go?
So the surface of the world doesn't have just one species who builds things. There's scores of species who are building things. But this planet's been under attack so many times between 1.5 million and 200,000, even 100,000 years ago. Orbital bombardment was a common process. So pyramids, they can phase out of reality, and then when the attack is done, they can recreate the reality of the damaged surface, and then the building can come right back. So, and then at one point in time, there was enough intentional harvestable energy, like you could, melt a continent down and rebuild it in a handful of days, completely rebuilt the incinerated rock, whatever. They had that much power and control.
They're the file that carries. They're like the DNA, the structural DNA in the sense of architecture of the planet to reboot the constructs. Instead of like DNA rebooting the life form, it's like the I want to call it a zip file, but it's better than that, right? That you can upload, and reboot everything from.
Restructure completely restructure on the surface, correct?
So I think you get down to 450,000 years ago. Isn't that also the time frame? I mean, not for in real life. I mean, real life, they say it happened millions of years ago, but in some circles, they suggest that the cosmic war, they say, between Earth and Tiamat, right? Earth, Mars, and Tiamat, actually, I think it was, right? And maybe Venus as well. That's kind of a. I'm going to be picturing people who put that out there.
I put that at about 4.5 million years ago. But at that particular time, there wasn't one species in getting into this area and trying to put a flag up. There was already a bunch of, let's just call them galactic pirates that had formed their own Tortuga, okay? And both good and bad were in there. And then we'll just say some religious type species who said you can't use people this way came in and started a a long-term battle with the pirates that were here, and then it attracted other species who had a different belief and attracted another species with a different belief, and all their belief systems began crashing together of who was right and who was wrong. In a 100% free world universe, and 100% free will galaxy, and 100% free world, what's good and bad? Free will is free will, is it not?
It is. And it got me thinking a question now. So, how about since the idea that what Rudolf Steiner tried to propose, essentially, not just him, but that the villain, right, from his cosmic story, is basically like many of these other archons from other mythologies, right? And so the residue of the consciousness of this defeated being, and perhaps even the planet, let's say, so Tiamat is totally destroyed. Tiamat is the asteroid belt between here and Mars, all the residue of the planet's material. So, and that's real. I mean, we know that actually happened. There was a collision that made our moon, in common science anyway, they suggest, and that's the remnants of that planet. So, what if that planet is the archon, essentially, it's our nemesis, essentially, still. It can't reboot.
It's not. Tiamat's done. It's been actually taken out of our reality, so it can't influence anymore.
Okay, so it's not our nemesis in a sense anymore. In other words, the spiritual nemesis is gone from that war.
But their offspring are part of the genetic farm here, which may carry on some aspects of keeping its ideologies alive.
So the old belief, the Gnostic belief in the archons, in the sense that everything on Earth is a play that they control, essentially, right? And there's different ways of looking at it. What we're suggesting is we're free of that, or that is actually still something that's out there.
It's still something that's out there, but it doesn't have the strength that it did 15 or 30 years ago. It's been reduced by at least by a factor of 10. They don't have iron control anymore. I haven't had iron control in a long time.
Right. So is that this gets into the idea of belief being the currency of the universe, right? Where because people don't believe in the gods of old anymore, which are essentially whether they're the watchers from the Book of Enoch or whether they're the gods of Mount Olympus, the fact that people don't worship the gods anymore doesn't give them power, and the power is waning, right?
But how many people worship the fiat dollar?
A lot, unfortunately.
Some don't even realize that they worship the dollar. Huh? That's how insidious this system has grown over the last 5,000 years.
And that is the first magic spell, right? I mean, I'm not a magician, but yeah, I've heard others mention that a talisman is one of the first and simplest magical items, and that enchanting a talisman is exactly what a dollar is. Not just our dollar, but currencies in general.
All currency is a spell, yes. It's absolutely 100% a spell. Now, what does that spell do? Glamour. Makes you believe in something, gives it that shiny frequency that gives it trust. That's why so much of what the Cabal does is just plain advanced glamour magic. Getting you to see their shiny over something else.
The shiny, yeah. I thought I listened to a lot of Moody Blues music when I was in high school, and those guys were they're mystical, man. The people don't know. They weren't. They were into some esoteric stuff, man. And the album cover, Every Good Boy Deserves Favor. It has that old man, the wise sage kind of thing, holding those shiny objects in front of the boys, and you got the one boy with the light in his eyes. He still has the wonder, and then the disappointed kids who got ripped off in the background. It's always disturbed me, but that is exactly what goes on in the world, right? You're giving up the real wonder that's inside and in nature for this shiny object. That's summed up in that image perfectly.
We're almost out of time, so Andrew, tell everybody where they can find you again. Make sure, because I know some people want to get a hold of you for some private sessions. So tell everyone where they can get a hold of you. And I really want to thank you so much for being here tonight. And tell everybody where they can find you.
So you go to my website, andrewbartzis.com, and you can do the contact information there, book a session through there. And then if you want to get my book, you can go to amazon.com and type in Andrew Bartzis, Galactic Historian. The book is titled The Galactic Historian, The World According to Andrew Bartzis. It's one of those books that you're going to read and reread and read and reread over and over again. And it's just going to give you a lot of fundamentals of how much you've been lied to, and then what are you going to do with the lies? Stop getting angry that you were lied to and do something with your new innovation and motivational factors that you got. So you can also find me on Facebook, Galactic Historian. You can find me on YouTube, Galactic Historian, as well as Twitter and Twitch.
Right on. Well, listen, I really want to thank you. It's been a really illuminating discussion from a lot of angles, and I want to thank you for being here tonight and sharing with us. We really appreciate it. I know the listeners appreciate it. We'll look forward to having you come back soon, like maybe in a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks.
Sure.
If you want to stop,
love to do it.
It'd be great, man. And hopefully we get these phones figured out. I've never had this happen before. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being here. We'll see you tomorrow night.
I take the brakes off.
Galactic.